back in the days when
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. So it's cold. I should have worn another coat, but Tuesday, November 24th, Thanksgiving in a couple of days, and also my wife's birthday, Thursday, the 26th, November 26th. Okay, so Sam Harris has left IDW, Intellectual Dark Web, or as Rogan used to call it, the Intellectual Dork Web. All right, just kidding around. Joe Rogan was sort of part of that group anyway, and I have a lot of issues. I used to listen to Eric Weinstein, Brett, and they gotten really obnoxious, and like kind of stepped away. The whole group is stupid, and I hate like Shapiro was part of it, Jordan Peterson. But let me do this. I'm gonna play a little bit of this, and then I'll talk for a minute. All right, this guy. This is called the Progressive Voice. Well, they have 75,000 subscribers. It's a small channel, and I didn't realize they had that many subscribers. But here we go. Watch.
So you guys may or may not remember the IDW, aka the Intellectual Dark Web. It was a group that was founded back in early 2018. It had Joe Rogan, the Weinstein brothers, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Dave Rubin, and a couple of other people as well. But that was kind of the core of the group.
Dave Rubin, I cannot stand. What a fucking weasel. You know the story of Dave Rubin? He was a progressive, and all he is a grifter. But let me continue on with this.
I don't know if Ben Shapiro was included in that or not. Actually, it escapes me right now. But basically, the lineup of the Intellectual Dark Web is because a lot of people like to make up their own names. There was a New York Times article that sort of introduced them as a group. That's their lineup. I don't remember if Ben Shapiro was pictured in the bushes or whatever. I forgot. But that was essentially the group. Now, Sam Harris was part of the group, but he was kind of the odd man out there because everybody else was sort of either sympathetic to Trump and was kind of scared to criticize Trump because too much of their audience was in favor of Trump, or they were just outright supporters of Donald Trump, right? Or like apologists for the guy. Whereas Sam Harris, since day one, actually since before the election, has been an incredibly vocal critic of Donald Trump.
Right. Let me pause this for a second. Sorry for interrupting, but by the way, Sam Harris, I was a big fan. I listened to every single one of his podcasts. I started following him like way back. Like his first book, End of Faith. What was that, 2006? Always been a big fan of Sam. I listened to every one of his podcasts since 2012. He was a guest on Joe Rogan a lot, and I loved him, and I still love him. He is great, but he started, I think like 8 months ago, he started charging for his podcast. I'm like, dude, that's the wrong move. There are like a million podcasts. You're going to charge someone $9 a month? It's gross. You could use the podcast to promote yourself, sell your books. Joe Rogan doesn't charge for his podcast. What are you doing? I was really turned off by that. But let me continue on. Come on.
Vocal critic on the grounds of he's a pathological liar and, you know, he's a con man, a fraud, all this kind of stuff. So it's more the liberal stuff. But, you know, it comes from, I think, more of a, comes more from, you know, he's a neuroscientist. So I'm guessing it comes a lot from that arena, which is fine. It makes sense. Now, he would always take little shots at members of the Intellectual Dark Web, even back in early 2018. And he would throw like thinly veiled shots of, you know, it's embarrassing that I'm the only one that criticizes Donald Trump in this group. He would throw in little jabs like that, but it would never make headlines. And even like a year later or something like that, he was talking about how he didn't like the Intellectual Dark Web. And now with the election of Joe Biden and the shit show that has preceded the loss of Donald Trump, before, you know, the lame duck period has even ended, Sam Harris is announcing that he has rescinded his membership to the Intellectual Dark Web.
Insofar as I've noticed what others in the so-called Intellectual Dark Web have been saying, it's generally not something I want to be associated with. I don't want to single anyone out in particular, but allow me to take this moment to turn in my imaginary membership card to this imaginary organization. I mean, the IDW was always tongue-in-cheek from my point of view.
Yeah.
It was a funny name for a group of people who were willing to discuss difficult topics in public,
you know,
mostly on podcasts. But it never made sense for us to be grouped together as though we shared a common worldview. I never saw much downside to it, and I didn't much think about it. But in the aftermath of this election, with some members of this fictional group sounding fairly bonkers, I just want to make it clear that I'm not part of any group, right? So if you want to criticize my ideas, that's great. But I only represent myself here, and no one else speaks for me.
So yeah, I guess that's official. Sam
Yep.
Harris has made his exit
Good.
from the intellectual dark web. Now, the first guy that obviously comes out and sort of screams at you when he's talking about people who've gone bonkers, it's easily Dave Rubin. Okay.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
even just saw a clip of him like a couple days
He's
ago.
a fucking
where he
dick.
basically explained that Donald Trump can still win this election. He's got something up his sleeve.
But Dave Rubin's
Rubin is
gay
either one
too,
of
by
two
the way.
things.
Not
He's
that
either
that's
just an
bad, but
extremely
he's
dedicated grifter and a sellout,
he's
or
disgusting.
he's legitimately delusional. I don't know which one it is. I'm tempted to go with the former, but I'm not 100% sure. It's really hard to tell. But Sam Harris, like I said, has been throwing thinly veiled shots at a lot of people. I saw some people saying that he threw Brett Weinstein under the bus. So I don't know if there's been any beef between Sam.
I used to like Brett Weinstein too, Eric's brother, and he said some really disgusting things on the Joe Rogan podcast right after George Floyd. He was, he has this very eloquent way of speaking, very articulate, but basically when he was talking about George Floyd, did we actually see a murder, Joe? In other words, he's being cute about it, siding with, I don't know. I don't know what to think of it, but it was grotesque. It was ugly what he was trying to do. All right, Brett Weinstein. Here we go. Let me continue. There's only a
Harris
minute
and
left.
Brett Weinstein, either the Weinstein brothers. I also have not seen a collaboration between Sam Harris and Joe Rogan in a long time. I think their last appearance was, I don't know, like a year or more ago, something like that. We know he hasn't collaborated with Dave Rubin for a long time. By the way, Sam Harris is really the reason why Dave Rubin's show,
That's
got its
right.
boost in the beginning, because his interviews on Dave Rubin were really big for his channel.
Yep.
That being for Dave Rubin, of course. So I don't know, he might be regretting that as well. But, it's definitely interesting to see. Also worth noting, Sam Harris obviously had really heated debates with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro on topics of religion and such.
I like Jordan.
So,
still,
he's always been at odds with them, and he really has been the only one who's really genuinely been willing to be an outspoken critic of Donald Trump. Any of the other people, even if you say they don't support Donald Trump, right? They're always very scared to criticize Trump, or they just straight up never do. Or if they do, they coach it with a spoonful of sugar.
And that's the problem
like
I have with Joe. Like, Joe was never really outwardly, a Trump fan, but he was kind of an apologist. He would always give excuses for Donald Trump's behavior. It's very, very annoying. And Joe identifies as a progressive Democrat liberal, but here's the thing: Joe wouldn't criticize Trump, but he was quick to go after Biden. His age, and he has dementia. Joe's annoying. He really can be fucking annoying. I'm listening to his podcast now, and he's going after the governor of California again. It's so boring, And then this anti-woke stuff. The anti-woke stuff is more boring than the woke stuff itself. It's like, enough of that. Tiresome. All right, let me continue.
Scared because their audience is sort of going to turn on them or whatever. They're going to lose fans.
Yep.
The one time, remember, Jordan Peterson went after Brett Kavanaugh. He caved into the mob because he was worried about losing money. Jordan Peterson is a clown. Like that one time he actually criticized conservatives and actually, voiced his opinion on that. He backed down when he said, I never back down to the mob. But when it's a right-wing mob, you back down because that's where the money's at.
Yeah,
so
it's
Jordan
really
Peterson
horrible.
is a fraud as well. So the intellectual dark web is really full of a bunch of jokes, to be completely honest with you. And I think Sam Harris has known that for a while now. But the intellectual dark web hasn't really been a thing for a long, long time. In fact, I'm not even really sure when the last time that the intellectual dark web has been a thing. Because the intellectual dark web has really been dead for, I would say, at least a year now, but maybe even a year and a half, genuinely. So, intellectual dark web is over. It was kind of garbage from the jump, to be honest with you, in my personal opinion.
Totally.
But interesting to see, man. Definitely interesting to see what has happened.
Okay, very good. Okay, there you go. Sam Harris leaves the intellectual dark web. I'm almost 10 minutes, so I'll be doing more on this, by the way. So, good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience, peace, love, and understanding here in Tabor Talk.